So I stood in the doorway to my garage and took one last look at the cabinet. I shut the garage door, I turned around, and I walked down my driveway for the final time. When my ex had suggested that we live together, it had seemed like an amazing idea that we live in her tiny condo, mainly because she insisted that that was the best place for us to live. And so I got rid of most of my stuff. I put a few precious things in a storage unit, and I arrived with my clothes, my laptop, my fiddle, and my bottle of scotch. I was crazy in love, and I figured this was just going to be fine. But it wasn't fine. I am a messy person, and I get particularly overwhelmed trying to be neat in very tiny spaces like a 550 square foot condo for two people. My ex is a pack rat. She tends to save paper in case it might be important. She loves bargains and stocking up on things that maybe we'll need later if we're able to find them when later comes. And then she felt like we could just find the perfect storage solutions and things would be fine. I believe in the laws of geometry, and my theory was that we just needed to get rid of stuff, but that just never happened. And I am kind of spatially organized, and so I got really good at creating these giant Jengas in our two closets and the couple small wardrobes we had. But like every time I cleared out a little breathing space, stuff accumulated. And then our friend Charlie moved away, and my wife scavenged the cabinet. This cabinet had been built by Charlie out of scrap lumber, and it was this big high bookshelf, and then it had a fold down piece of plywood to be a desk, and then there were doors under the desk that shut. And she's like, this is great. We can set it right by the door and hold things in it and see those doors shut so it looks a lot neater, and we can put our stuff in it as we come and go. And I totally disagreed, but I lost the argument. I did gain naming rights to the cabinet, which I christened the crab catcher. And I was right. That cabinet filled up rather quickly, but I was very wrong about how unkind I was about pointing this out, because every time I bumped my shoulder on one of its sharp edges, I got really annoyed. And I now realize we fought a lot, and mostly what we fought about was stuff and housekeeping. And we blamed stuff, or at least I blamed too much stuff for everything. In reality, it was because that was a lot easier to do than deal with the actual sharp edges that were cluttering that relationship up. And it got so bad that I decided that I needed to move back to my own home. But we didn't break up. We just kind of split time. And of course, stuff started also migrating with me, but we were doing okay. And then my ex decided that the cabinet was kind of too big for her space, and her idea was, let's put it in your garage because it's a great storage thing. And I actually agreed to that, because I thought it would be better, because at least I wouldn't get mad every time I came into her living room and bounced my shoulder off of it. And so I also knew I was about to face a challenge. This cabinet was about 8 feet high and almost 4 feet wide and 18 inches deep. It was humongous. My ex's condo was very small, and it opened out into an equally small entryway. There's a door. To the right, about 2 feet away, is the exterior door, which has glass window panes and opens inward. To the left, there's about 2 feet of space, and then there is a long, narrow flight of stairs, and there's just a few feet across the entryway to another unit. And I moved that cabinet in there, and so I knew this involved a very complex series of dance moves. You had to clean out part of the living room, kind of wiggle that cabinet around, tip it so it would go through the door, twist it, turn it, lean it back onto the stairs, pull it halfway up the stairs so there was room to open the outside door, and then thread it out the door where you could stand it up and do whatever you wanted with it. My ex apparently had a different dance in mind, and that might have been a perfectly good idea, except that she didn't raise the issue until I'm holding on to the cabinet halfway up the flight of stairs. And an argument ensued. And while we're discussing this thing had doors with no latches. We put a rubber band around them. The rubber band broke. The doors flop open, smacking my ex in the shin. That also counterbalances the cabinet which I'm trying to hold on to. I impale my palm with a splinter. I try to overcorrect. I lose control of the cabinet. Down the stairs it goes, and through one of those glass window panes in the door. You know, clarity or pain kind of provides some clarity. And I'm looking at the carnage, and I had a moment of understanding. Stuff was not to blame. It was those sharp edges, the fact that there was a lack of communication and respect, and by that time, we really couldn't even be nice to each other. And I'm standing there, and I pick the cabinet back up, and we get it out of the condo. I pick up my coat, and I say, I can't do this anymore, because I couldn't. That led to several months of introspection. And I like to think that I moved past a lot of the blame and understood that I didn't like my ex very much, but by that time I didn't like myself and who I was in that relationship either. And it was time to make some changes, and ultimately I moved up here to Washington State. And on the last day before I moved, I took 2 loads of stuff that belonged to my ex back to her condo, and I believe I was honest when I wished her well. On the day that I moved, I took a look at that cabinet, I closed the garage door, I walked down my driveway for the final time into a whole new future, and I felt much less burdened.